Hello everyone, welcome to tech tip number 14, sharing links in OneDrive and Sharepoint and all the options about it. What do they all mean? How do you create these things and how do you remove them afterwards? So before I share my screen, I just want to talk a little bit about this. If you're doing this, if you're going to follow this video, whether in OneDrive, a personal account or a business account, or if you do this in SharePoint at work or something like that, this is going to function the exact same way. If you notice that there's some options that you see in this video that are not available to you, or you see those options and they're grayed out, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing something wrong, but most likely your administrator of SharePoint has disabled those options, at least for you. Most companies do disable some of these options. I'm a SharePoint administrator for my company, and certainly some of these options are disabled and they're controlled. Only certain individuals or certain groups are capable of doing some of these things. So if it's something that you have to do and you are not able to, just talk to your administrator at your company and see about getting those permissions to be able to do it. Now, if you're following along in this video on your personal OneDrive account, you should have no problem whatsoever. And then there's a couple things that I'm going to mention in this video, and I'll show them to you as well, that unless you have a premium account with Microsoft, like a paid for account, you will not have access to two of these options in particular. On my personal account that I'm using today, I do not have a premium license, so those options are not available to me to enable, but I can still show them to you. All that being said, what this video is about is sharing folders or files. They're both going to be the exact same, regardless if you're just sharing one file or two files, or a folder in general. And the conversation kind of needs to happen in your mind. You need to ask yourself, do I need to share just this file with somebody, or should I share the entire folder? And why that's important, especially if it's something like in a business or if you're sharing it with somebody outside of your home or outside of your company, it's important to have that thought, because these things, unless you set an expiration date, which I'm going to show you, these shareable links, whether for a file or a folder, never expire. They last forever. And so let's assume for a moment you share a folder and you share it with Bob. And so Bob has access to this folder, and 6 months down the line, you've forgotten that you actually shared it to Bob, and now you start adding other files to that folder. Well, Bob's still going to see all those folders or all those files inside that folder that you shared with him. And, pictures, Word documents, it doesn't matter what you shared. If you shared the folder, then anything you store inside that folder, Bob is going to have access to. And so you kind of have to have that thought, like, does Bob really just need one file, or does he need everything in this folder? And if it's just a single file, I'm of the mindset, I'm the type of person that you need to have the most restrictive permissions, meaning in kind of like in security, as it relates to networking and company data security, most restrictive. We base our mindset on the least necessity that somebody needs is what they get. So if all they need is to see something, they're not going to get edit permissions. They're only going to be able to get read permissions, view permissions, because that's all they need. If somebody needs to be able to edit something, then they'll get edit permissions. But somebody that only needs to be able to see one file will never get access to a folder, because they only need to see that file. So the most restrictive permissions is what they will get. And again, in security, there's different terminology that we use for like firewalls and things like that. And basically, it's the same mindset. You want to block everything and only permit what is required, what is necessary. And you want to have that same mindset, because especially if this is your personal data or even a business, and you're kind of responsible for not opening the doors too wide to the public, to people that shouldn't have access to the data, then you need to have these thoughts and how long should this folder or file be shared? Because if it's a short-term project that's only going to last a week, then you should you should set an expiration date, on that folder or file. And again, if it's a project that that company or that person only needs a certain folder, don't share everything to them, just share that one folder. And so that's what we're going to take a look at. What are all these different options? How do you create them? And then how do you go back and modify them later? Or how do you completely delete them when you're finished? So let me share my screen here and we're going to take a look together. I'm already logged into my OneDrive, but again, if you're following along in Sharepoint or in your business OneDrive, it's going to be the same way. All right, I have here a folder that we're going to utilize for this example. It's called Folder 1. Inside this folder, I have two files. I have an Excel file and a Word document. Now, I'm just going to kind of reiterate what I've already said, but if I need to share this Word document with Bob, I am not going to share this entire folder with Bob because he would have access to both files or any file that's within this folder. All I'm going to share is this one file. Now, likewise, if it's a project I'm working with Bob on and he needs access to everything in this folder, then I'm going to share the folder. But I'm going to also document or at least remember that Bob has access to this entire folder. I'm going to tell my colleagues, hey, folder 1 has been shared with Bob. Don't store anything in there that Bob should not have access to. And it's important that you communicate these things because if you don't tell people, they could start creating other files in here or other folders inside this one, and Bob's going to have access to all of that. And those individuals that are storing the files there, your coworkers, they might not know that you shared it with Bob. So now you have a problem. And also keep in mind, those duration of when projects end, because if this is a temporary thing with Bob, then I need to remember, oh, I've shared this folder with him. I need to come back in and remove that later. So for this example, we're going to share the folder. Now, again, if all you need to do is share a file, this process is exactly the same no matter what you're sharing, just a file, a folder, several at a time, etc. Now, Microsoft gives you several different ways of getting to the share options. The first way I'm going to show you is you can put a check mark in this little circle next to the folder or file, and at the top you have share. Now, another way that you can do it is if you hover your mouse over top of the file or folder, over here on the right hand side you have this little icon that looks like a folder with a little arrow. When you hover, it says share this item with other people. That's the second way. And the third way would be if you tap on these three dots, click on that, and you have this option, share. No matter which of the three options you utilize, when you click on those, it's going to open this options window for creating the share with other individuals. Okay, so we're looking at send link. We're looking at the share options window here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is change this top option. It currently says anyone with the link can edit. Now, if you're in a business, your default options might be different because as an administrator of a company, you can set the default options when somebody shares something. What is default? What comes up here initially? Because as administrators, we have to think about the fact that most end users won't even look at this. They won't notice what the settings are. They're not going to know what to do. And so we have to set the default options as the most restrictive. So by default, it's probably set to something like specific people. Now, if you're in a business, when you click on that link, anyone with the link can edit. When you click on this, it brings you to this next window. And here's where you can start customizing these things. If you're in a business as well, there's going to be two more options besides just these two that we see. There's going to be one that is something like shared with everybody in this organization and people with existing access, I believe, are the two other options. In a personal OneDrive, we don't see those two because there's no organization. I think the most secure option is going to be utilizing that option I just mentioned of share with other people inside this organization, because that just basically means other employees can access that stuff. So that's going to be pretty safe for you. But if you're sharing this with somebody outside of the organization, somebody that's not an employee, then you're going to need to do something a little bit different. Now, a lot of companies have this top option, anyone, grayed out, and you're not able to utilize it. And that's a good thing, because this top option, what that is saying is that anyone that has this link will be able to access that item. So in this case, we're sharing a folder. If I leave this top option checked, anyone, then what's going to happen is it's going to create a hyperlink. And I could send that link to Bob and say, hey, Bob, here's the folder. You have access. Now, if Bob sends that to somebody else and that person sends it to somebody else, I'm never going to know. But all of those individuals that get that link can access that folder and everything inside of it. And I would never know that it got shared out with other people. So it's very dangerous, and that's one of the main reasons that most companies block the use of anyone. They want to keep that restricted to only like managers, maybe executives, and only those individuals are capable of selecting this option, anyone. In most cases, you never want to utilize it. You want to use at least the second option, that is specific people. And we're going to tell the system who are those people, who can access this folder. Even if Bob sends this link to 20 other people, they won't be able to access it other than the people that we put in here. Now, the two options at the bottom are going to be can edit, and if we click on that, we can change it to can view. The differences of can edit and can view are simple. Edit means that the person can make changes. They can modify the documents inside that folder. They can upload new documents to that folder. And if they only have view, then all they can do is see the document. They can read it. They cannot modify it. They cannot change it. They cannot add new files to the folder. So those are the two different options. If the person only needs to be able to read the files, they don't need to be making changes to them, then obviously select view. But if they're helping you collaborate on a file or adding new documents inside of a folder, they're going to need edit permissions. For this example, we're going to assume that Bob needs edit permissions, so we're going to leave it to can edit. Now, this bottom option is a date, and this is the expiration. Now, if I hover my mouse over top of this icon, we see that expiring links. Keep your shared folders and files and photos more secure by giving others access for a limited period of time. And this is one of those options that you need a premium license, and that's why it says go premium, because I do not have one. And so if you do have a premium license or you're in a business, you're able to utilize this. And all you would do is click in here and it opens a calendar and you select the date that you want this link to expire on. So if Bob needs access to this folder until, say, February 20th, then I would put the 20th in here. And on the 20th, that link is no longer going to work. It will remove, Bob will no longer have access, and I don't have to worry about coming back in here to modify any permissions. That is very useful, and if it's something that you know an individual needs temporary access only, use this. Because more often than not, you're going to forget to come back in here and remove the permissions, so use this to your benefit. Let's go ahead and click apply. We have specific people selected and can edit. So now clicking apply brings us back to this previous window, and we can start telling the system who needs access. Now, I know Bob's email address, and I'm going to type it in. It's bob@bob.com. Now, obviously, this is just made up. I wouldn't send an email to this if you want to. I don't know who owns that email address. Now, after I type it in, notice that it pops up down here at the bottom. It's very important that you click on this. Watch what happens when I click. Boom, it locks it in right there at the top. If you don't click on it, this is not going to work. Now, if you typed it in incorrectly, that's okay. You can tap on this X, it removes it, and it allows you to type it in again. Once you know that you've typed the address correctly, click on it right down here, and that locks it in. Now, you can add as many email addresses in here as you need to, which is going to add the permissions for all those individuals that you type in into that box. Now, you need to get this link to those individuals. Bob needs to know how to access this folder. And the way that you can do that, Microsoft gives you two different ways. The first way is that you can type in a message right here. You could say something like, "Hi, Bob." Oops. Silly keyboard. "Hi, Bob. The link we spoke about is below." You can type whatever you need to and tap send. Microsoft is going to send the link. You don't have to paste it in there. Don't worry about that. When you hit send, it's going to send this message to that email address with the link to the item that you just shared. Now, that's super fast and easy. I don't personally like it because you can't customize the email address or the email that you're sending. But if it's something simple and it's maybe to a friend that you've already told, hey, you'll get this link, or it's a coworker that's next to you and you're like, yeah, let me send that to you right quick. Something like that, yeah, this works great. But if it's somebody else, you might not want to do it that way. Instead, at the bottom here, you see copy, and you see it's under copy link. It already has the people you specify can edit because we specified that right up here. So I'm going to click copy. As you see, it brings up a link. Now I'm going to open Outlook, and for this example, I'm just opening Notepad, but let's pretend like that is my Outlook, my email client. So I'm creating a new email, and I'm typing in the email to Bob. So, "Hello, Bob. Here is the link we spoke about." And then I'm going to paste. And there's the link. So now I can send this email fully customized as I normally would and send it to Bob. It's going to have my signature. It's going to be in my sent items in my Outlook. So it's easier for me to track and know that I did send this to Bob. And if Bob says that he doesn't get it, I can go back to my sent items and resend it. No problem. Okay. I've sent the link to Bob. He has it. It's working. Everything's great. But now we realize we needed to also share the same folder with another individual. No problem. You can go back in however you did. Tap on the share link. We're going to, and you know what? We're going to, maybe we need to add somebody that only has view permissions. Bob has edit permissions, but maybe this other individual only needs view permissions. Now, first thing to notice is down here at the bottom, you see it says shared with. That wasn't there before because we had not shared this. And if you hover over each of these little circles, it's going to display who it's shared with. If you click on it, it's going to open this window and it's going to display to you those individuals that have access to this file or folder. And it's going to show you what permissions you gave them. So in this case, Bob has edit permissions. Now maybe you need to upgrade or downgrade the permissions. Maybe Bob no longer needs to edit this folder. I can click on this, and right here under direct access can edit, I can change this to view. I click apply, and now Bob only has view permissions. So that's a super easy way of changing the permissions that you've assigned to somebody without having to delete and start over, none of that. So Bob has view permissions. Let's go ahead and put him back to edit. Click apply. And now we need to add Tiffany. Tiffany only needs view permissions. She does not need edit permissions. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to tap on specific people. I'm marking this to view. And now I'm going to type in Tiffany at bob.com. When I've typed it correctly, I'm going to click on the name. It's ready to be sent. And I can, again, send the message in here or click copy. Now I can send this link to Tiffany, and she will have view permissions only. Now, to compare, you'll see that those links are going to be different because one is specific for Bob, which is this top one, and he has edit permissions. This bottom link is going to be specific for Tiffany, and she will have view permissions. Now, let's say I need to remove Tiffany from here. She's done. She no longer needs permissions to this. No problem at all. I can click on these three dots and select Manage Access. That's a quick way of just bringing me directly into the same window, but takes me to the permissions section of it. And we see here Bob has Edit, Tiffany has View. Now I can click on either one, and under the Direct Access, I can select Remove. It confirms that yes, I want to remove the permissions, and now Tiffany is gone. So Bob still has his edit permissions, but Tiffany no longer has the view permissions that we sent. So she still has the link, but it's no longer going to work for her. Perfect. Now, one more thing I'm going to show to you. If you click on links, you can create and share a new link directly from here. Now, it's the exact same thing if you click on share and leave this option to anyone with the link. Now, again, as I described earlier, this is very dangerous because it means that anybody that gets this link will have access in here. Even if I send this to Bob and Bob sends it to Tiffany and Tiffany sends it to somebody else and it gets around to 30 different people, 100 different people, anybody with that link will have access to this folder. So typically, if you need to use that option, anyone with a link, you need to be very careful. You should probably set an expiration and a password. Notice that there's a new field here for password. When you use that option of anyone, you're able to set a password. And what that means is that they need the link, but they also need the password in order to get into that link, into that item that you shared. So it's one extra step because you're not going to specify who those people are. And, so again, somebody could get that link and then they share it with people. And as long as you have a password on there, then they won't be able to get in without that password. But you probably want to set an expiration date as well. And again, if the project only lasts a month, you don't want to leave it for 6 months. I would set it to just a little bit over a month. Because then if the project is delayed, and they need more time, you can come back in and modify that expiration date before it expires. No problem. Okay, so I'm going to put an expiration date. I'm going to put a password, and let's say that I just did that. You click apply, and so now you're going to select this option, copy. You get this other link, and it's going to be different from the rest, and now you can email that out to whoever needs it. So, now the project's over. We can remove all the permissions from everybody. Nobody needs access to this folder anymore. Let me refresh my page, and you're going to notice that this folder that we shared, right here under sharing, it says shared. So it's a quick way that you can glance at this and know this item is shared. There's some permissions on here that might need to be removed. Click on the three dots and go back to Manage Access, and we're going to remove all the permissions that we've created very simply. First, we're going to remove Bob. Just like we removed Tiffany, we're going to click on Remove Direct Access, and Bob's permission is gone. Now notice under links there's a number 1. That's because we just created this link that is shared with anyone. Right next to it is this trash bin that we can click on. Now again, if you put an expiration date and you need to update it because they need more time with it, you can click on this gear, and right here under can edit, you can change the permissions. Well, I can't because again, that's a premium feature that I don't have access to. But you could, if you have a business account or a premium license, you can click on this and change it to view. And at the bottom, you'll have the password and the expiration right down here in this blank area of my window. So you can update that information right here and click apply, and they're all set. But in our case, we're going to remove the link, excuse me, because the project's done. Excuse me. And we're ready to stop sharing this folder. Sorry about that. So I'm going to click on the trash can, and it says the link will not work for anyone anymore. I love how it says that. And that's what we want. We do not want the link to function any longer. So I'm going to click on remove. And we're all set. Bob is gone. Tiffany's gone. The link is gone. all the sharing has been removed. Now, if I refresh my page here, we notice that the sharing goes back to private. Whenever it says private, that means it's not been shared with anybody. Nobody has access to it. And that's perfect. That's what we want. Now our folder and files are all secure. Nobody has access to them. And, whenever you do this, anytime you share a file or folder, you should probably keep note of that somewhere. Like, keep track of it. You might have a OneNote or maybe a spreadsheet that has, I don't know, the folder's names and the files that you've shared out and who you shared them to. Worst case scenario, you can look at this field and see that something's been shared. And you can click the 3 dots. You can go to Manage Access. And you can see who it's been shared to. But if this is a business, and there's thousands of files and folders, that would be a little tricky and cumbersome to do. So you might keep track of who you've shared it to. Also, there's nothing wrong with keeping this organized. You might have a folder that's called Shared, and anything that you're going to share has to be inside that folder. So you have a folder called Share or Shared, and inside of there you have a different folder called Bob. Or maybe you name it by a project name. And now all the files and folders that have been shared with different individuals or different companies is inside that one folder called Shared. And so now anytime you need to make changes or find something, you know that those items are inside that one location. And so that's a super fast, kind of easy way of knowing what items are shared and where to find the items that are shared, in case you need to make changes or remove access. And just remember, unless you set an expiration date, it will never expire. That link will last forever. So you want to make sure that you always set these permissions as restrictive as you can. The least permissive is what you want to do. You don't want to make a link that can last forever. You don't want to share it with everybody. You want to make it the least permissive, right? Or the most restrictive. It's the same mindset. You want to make it as difficult for your data to get into the wrong hands as you possibly can. So that's how you can do some sharing. Again, this is OneDrive, but it's the same thing if you have a business OneDrive or if you have SharePoint. These options will work the exact same way. And, maybe even in Google Cloud, Google Drive, it's very similar. The options are slightly different, but it works almost the identical way. And then there's a bunch of different cloud storage options as well, besides just Microsoft and Google. I mean, there's AWS and Dropbox and Box.com, and there's all these different options that you can utilize. And even iCloud, you can do this also. It's just not so business friendly. So regardless of what technology, what cloud solution you use, make sure that you're always using the most restrictive. Make sure that you kind of monitor it or, track it, organize it so that you know what has been shared and what can be removed when the project is finished. So that's all for this video. I hope that this Tech Tip 14 has come in handy for some of you. Comment below, like this video if it helped, and let me know in the comments if you're an administrator of SharePoint or other cloud solutions, what permissions do you assign to people? How do you allow your team, your employees to share folders and files? How do you monitor and maintain this yourself as well? And if you're an end user, what do you think of this? Does it come in handy? How do you share files out with other individuals outside the organization? Hope this comes in handy for some people. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.